Welcome everybody to either one of my channels, either Serpent Tarot or Timeline Traveler Tarot. I haven't decided which I'm going to publish this on, and also to Ryan's channel, Druidry. Depending upon which one you're watching on. Welcome to another of our, I guess what we call community spiritual discussions, where we meet with interesting people and talk about hopefully interesting topics. And we think we've got an interesting one today about our own, how much it's us and how much is external around our spiritual journey and our spiritual development and all that kind of thing. So what I want to do is I want to quickly introduce one of our new community members, and then I'll throw to Ryan to introduce another, and then we'll maybe come back to me and I'll have a talk about what we're going to discuss. So let me introduce to you to JC. Wave JC so that they know which one is you.
Hi, everybody. What up, McLovelies? How are we?
Lovely. JC is one of the community that had come initially, I think, to my channel and said she was interested in being involved. And we met with her and loved her. Fantastic energy, all of that good stuff. But we also have
Clearly, you're
another.
excellent judges of people.
We also have another new community member, and I think it's appropriate for Ryan to introduce her.
This is my wife, Ashley, the lovely
Hi.
Ashley. She has a channel called Aquarius Rising. If you search it, it's under Aquarius Rising 23.
Do you actually have Aquarius rising, Ashley? Can I ask? Is that
Yes,
why? Yeah, I
I
thought that
do.
was
Yep.
probably. But with Pluto in Aquarius at the moment, it could have been anything. So I thought I'd just ask.
Yeah. That's kind of actually why I chose the name for the channel because it was moving into Aquarius and it
Ah,
just popped into my head and I was like, well, it kind of fits. So,
yeah. Yeah, very
yeah.
timely. Very timely.
Mhm.
Lots going to happen with Pluto and Aquarius, I think.
Yeah.
So, what we thought we'd talk about today, and hopefully we'll get lots of comments and people interested in being part of the conversation. But what we wanted to look at is it came from the fact that I mentioned that I'm rereading a book that I read probably about 20 years ago or more called The Zealoter. And it's actually kind of the memoir of a modern day alchemist. So looking at his journey and going through the various mystery schools and all of that kind of thing. And I was reading the rather lengthy introduction where a person was talking about one of the things that's interesting is that if you look at what I would call broadly Western spiritual traditions, it seems to have either Christ consciousness in one form or another without necessarily being Christian, but having something a bit like that, or it has angels or other sorts of intermediaries. So there's sort of a concept in a way that there is an intermediary or some form of grace that is really important. Like there's only so far the good works or meditation or whatever would go. There's all this other mysterious stuff that connects with external forces. And then on the other hand, you have the Eastern tradition, which Ryan is obviously with working with the Tao and with the Ching. And that doesn't have that. So that's much more around, it doesn't necessarily not have the concept of a divine, I guess, but it seems to be much more around your own practice, like being an honorable and good person, and meditation and personal enlightenment. And that's just a really interesting difference. And so we thought it could be fun to have a bit of a conversation with everybody here and see where it develops around what of those two, if you were almost seeing it as one or the other, if you can do it that way, maybe you have a bit of both, I don't know. But one or the other, what is where do you lean and why, and what is your experience and so forth. And I thought I might just kick it off to say, obviously, I am probably more in the Western tradition, I would say, with the tarot, with the Kabbalah. Though I'm not really sure where you would see the Kabbalah, but like it kind of fits more with what's become the Western tradition, interest in like angelic magic, high magic in general, all of those sorts of things. And I do think that there is something like Christ consciousness. I do have a belief in that. And I do actually, from personal spiritual experience, and the most profound personal spiritual experience I ever had, I do believe in grace. So I do believe that sometimes, whether it's your spirit guide, whether it's the divine, whether it's the angels, something sometimes takes you out of yourself and shows you something or helps you or blesses you in some way. So I do believe in that. I also think part of the reason that tarot works is that over the years, the archetypes have become like egregores. So, egregores being that concept of a spiritual entity that comes into being because of the commonality of the belief in it. So I think to some degree when the tarot works, because I'm always trying to figure out how it is that the right cards come out, is that in a sense the egregores step forward to tell the story when they're saying this is what the answer to the question is. So you have that mixed in with spirit guides and all that kind of thing. So I do sit in that side of things, but I have a lot of respect for the concept of, meditation. I have a lot of respect for the Ching and what it talks about. And I do think that honor, I mean, ultimately, my spirituality is two things, kindness and honor. And it's not really anything else. All the rest of it's window dressing. So that's where I kind of sit, I think, from my own personal experience. But JC, maybe I will throw to you. Where do you think you sit with all of that?
I'm going to go that I subscribe to all of the above. I think I love all of it.
Hmm.
I must admit, the I Ching is new to me. I didn't really know. I know it is an ancient form of practice. So, but like you, Helen, I do agree that there is a consciousness. I think it changes as you age and the more experiences you have as well. So I said I'd like to subscribe to everything because I don't think there is one right way to that connection that we have in the universe. Like yourself, Helen, when you said with the tarot cards, sometimes you just think, how the fuck did that actually
Yeah.
happen? That is so spot on. And yet other times you can have someone else in front of you and absolutely nothing. There's just like a blank. You get nothing at all. I think the other thing is too, like, is there a crossover between the two? Like, do you really have to be either or? Do you know
Probably
what I
not.
mean? So,
Yeah.
if you are someone who practices I Ching, does that mean, well, I really think, yep, tarot, fortune telling, whatever, none of that actually applies? If you have a religious background, you believe in God, well, does that mean you can't practice tarot, do the I Ching either? Like, why does it have to be either or? Why do we have to choose? Can we not embrace all of it? So, long story short, I'm embracing all of it because I love it. And I think anything that leads us to move forward as people, as a race, to be better human beings, why wouldn't we embrace that? You know?
Yep.
So, I'm going to kick it over to you, Ryan. What are your
Oh, good.
thoughts?
I think that it is advisable, at least in the beginning stages, to pick, even if you're talking about in terms of like tarot, uh, a skill that you're used to, that you have as kind of like your base level, and then it almost becomes a language that you understand really well. And then you can kind of do crossover and later on see how that kind of matches with other systems. But for me, it took quite a while to land on the I Ching as a system and kind of like a base, um, surrounded by Taoism and Eastern traditions as kind of like my home base. Um, but I feel like no matter where you're coming from, you're trying to use language to describe something that's ineffable, essentially. And so, uh, whichever language appeals to you the most, I feel like that should be the one you find as your own personal language that you really want to study deeply into, so that you can kind of make some progress. I feel like myself, I've danced around all kinds of traditions, and it's like that feeling of being not a master of any, but just kind of like a very shallow level of understanding of each thing. Not that I claim to be a master of any of the things that I've researched. Uh, However, as far as the conversation regarding the Christ consciousness that Helen brought up versus Eastern thought, in Taoism, what I like about it is the idea of stripping back to the innocent child version of ourselves, or what you might call your true nature. And as opposed to the idea of ascending and having this kind of angelic light like experience, it's almost talks about the mysterious pass, where this place in kind of like the ether is the home where this alchemical process takes place. And it does very much orient itself around self-development for sure. And I like that in Taoism, as in Druidry, they both are open enough that you can use them intermixed with other traditions very, very, very easily, and not be frowned at by other
And
Taoists
if
or
they frown, we
Druids
don't
in the
care.
system. What's that?
If they frown, we don't care.
Right? Yeah, I think that it's nice to have kind of like various um, traditions represented and have this kind of back and forth conversation of how they interact and what they could be pointing to and kind of the nuances between them as well as what they all might have in common, um, and what they might say about our understanding of reality. And if there is an open enough conversation where we can kind of set aside our differences and open up the floor to kind of like that understanding that we're all, in theory, descendant from apes and basically came up with languages to try and describe a bunch of stuff and chop it up into bite-sized pieces to make heads or tails of it. And we're still doing the exact same thing. So I think that we can take ourselves a little less seriously than we often try to do, even amongst all our technology and everything. With everything going on, we still have no idea what this even is. And so um, maybe a spirit of hypothesis and just experimentation, uh, and maybe having things be less, uh, you know, serious. Why so serious?
Yeah.
Anywho, uh, now I have to come up with a question. Let
No,
me think.
no, it's okay. We also just need to have Ashley tell
Okay.
us about her point.
Oh gosh.
And then
I
I have a
don't.
question I want to ask you, Ryan, but like Ashley.
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin. I'm such a beginner, I feel like in everything in life. I don't really have a religious background. I don't really know a lot about anything at all, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I oftentimes don't even know what I believe in. I just know when I have a spiritual experience, that's something that's like, oh, okay, this is real. And then it feels like the veil gets pulled back over until you have that other spiritual experience again. But I definitely feel like in the line of work that I do, I work with different cultures and they all have different, religious backgrounds. And you can tell that there is a divide there between the West and the East. But I feel like we're all just human and one big melting pot, and it's nice to learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very true. Often I would think, Ashley, in a way, that makes you really good to be part of this conversation, I think, because you kind of don't come to it with a set of beliefs that are kind of almost unconscious. You're sort of like right in the experience, which is really, really good. And I
Mhm.
was like, when Ryan was talking, like something I want to ask you, Ryan, which I think hopefully gets to the point of what this might be about, but who knows, is you often mention the mind of Tao. And then I sort of think of something like, when you do tarot, are you it's the egregoric thing, are you channeling higher spirits or whatever? But as I say, the West seems to externalize it to some degree. That's I mean, like mysticism probably aims to merge with the divine, but it by and large it seems to externalize it to some degree. So when you talk about the mind of Tao, your understanding of it, I'm just asking for yours. I'm not, you don't have to know what the first writers of the I Ching thought or whatever. But when you think about
That would
is
be
that
cool.
yeah, well, yes, if you do know, you can share that. But I'm more interested
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
do you think that it is mainly talking about a kind of collective psychology, or do you think there is a kind of an energy or entity or an intelligence that is the mind of Tao that is separate to the individual? I mean, when you use the I Ching, do you feel it is you answering you? Maybe that's the thing I'm asking. Or do you feel something external comes through you and answers you?
Um, Kind of like a side note on
Hmm.
that is in doing the I Ching readings, I kind of am a little bit fortunate already to be outside of just a strictly Taoist perspective because James DeCorn comes at it from a Gnostic perspective.
Ah,
So already it's mixing in that idea of the self
hmm.
and that kind of thing. Um, so, I don't know how polluted my answer is going to be
That's okay. It's whatever
based
you're
on
experiencing.
that kind of influence. But to my understanding, there's this thing called dust that is the idea of having the influence of society, whatever society you live on, being something that covers you in this dust that you have no way of getting completely off. You're just covered in this dust. And the idea is to slowly work your way toward being in harmony with what is, with your natural self. And you're trying to strip away instead of like building on and adding to and gaining levels. It's more like all of that we understand from society's perspective has put us in a box. And being in this box, it's more like unveiling and removing layers to come to the state where you don't have to uh, act with so much intellectualism and so much trying to see based on how you fit into society what you might say in that position. It's more of your intuition coming out and being freed through all of the layers so that your nature intermixed with the nature of the times that's happening is kind of like one flow. It's like, in my perspective, learning how to whitewater kayak or something like that. You're flowing with the river and you learn how to, steer around when the river's coming up on some rough areas. You kind of navigate that and you go with the river. But at the same time, you have a little bit of ability to see what's coming up with use of the I Ching, for instance, and kind of harmonize with that as best as possible. So with the I Ching, it feels a little bit like instead of wrapping everything around my perspective, it's like I'm learning what the Tao is doing and I'm modeling myself to whatever that is at the time, which as things change constantly, that is going to be an ongoing flowing process. It's not the idea that there was this one source divine knowledge that was given to mankind and we have to stick to that because it's unchanging. It's more the idea that we're flowing through the times and learning how to adapt and um, applying things in such a way where they make sense according to our personal situations. So it is very much self-developmental and less so focused on, broader society and everybody acting a particular way. It's finding out what natural way you work and how the Tao and you can kind of intermingle into that space and kind of flow together in harmony,
That actually
from my
reminds me of
understanding.
something. Oh, sorry, Ryan. That just reminds me of something that you said before, and even you, Helen, when we were just talking. To me, on a very, very basic level between Eastern and Western, there is a sense of pattern recognition
Mm.
or behavioral recognition. Do you know what I mean? So you read for someone on enough Tara, you would know, you get to see symbols, and as soon as they come up, you recognize it. And from what you're saying, like I said, Ryan, I don't know a lot about the I Ching, but when you're reading the hexagrams and things, you're recognizing patterns and things that recur constantly. So if it was the same, a similar reading over and over, that pattern recognition is like seems to be a strong foundation has emerged between the Eastern and the Western. Do you think? What do you reckon?
That
Because
makes,
I
is the I
definitely think
Ching a
that's
form
true.
of divination?
I think that makes
Sorry,
a
that
lot
was
of
It
my
sense.
is.
question. Sorry.
So, sorry.
It is
Also,
actually
I
a
need to let you know,
yeah.
JC, that you're kind of freezing a lot. We hear you. We can hear what you're saying, but
Oh,
your
sorry.
visual.
Oh, that's
No,
good.
it's okay. But just so you know, we can hear you. Like it's not affecting the
Oh, very good.
vocal. It's yeah. Um, it's interesting you said that because it's sort of also what I was thinking when Ryan was talking that often I think that the strong structure of the tarot is actually the other reason that it kind of works beyond whether there's something magical, and I do think there's something magical in the right cards coming out. It's a very good structure that describes human psychology and the human experience, and maybe the
Mm-hmm.
same thing could be
Definitely.
said of the I Ching. And I was also thinking in its own way the same thing could be said of astrology. So all of them have in common a kind of a and the Kabbalah actually a delineation of human psychology as much as anything else. But as I say, what's sort of interesting is in doing the kind of magical side of things in the Western tradition or whatever, there is this kind of sense of like external powers that are great and are individual intelligences in a way, and we talk about spirit guides and we talk about all that kind of thing which is external, but the I Ching, from what I can tell, I mean, maybe tarot's the same actually. Maybe you could do it. You could actually divorce all of that from that, and you could just say it's a good psychological mechanism and it's good, meditatively or whatever. But I think that they all have structure. The question, I guess, is what makes them work. With that really profound thing, I'll throw it to the rest of you to figure that out.
Uh, Benabel Wen, I was watching on her channel, and like you mentioned, she does commentaries or books talking about the tarot, but she also does it on the I Ching.
Hmm.
And uh, she was talking about the I Ching being called like the nameless book, I think is how she talked about it. And the idea behind it is that there's meaning that you bring to it in a sense, but not only that, it's more that there is this kind of essence or energy behind it that uh, with all the different translations and way you could understand it, what gives the book a name, so to speak, is how it and you interact in this space, kind of like bringing. There's one of the hexagrams that talks about honoring the ancestors or the gods and bringing a sacrifice. So the idea behind it is that if you have a relationship, quote unquote, with it, uh, and you honor it in such a way that it can give you, or the energy behind it can kind of give you permission to have that unfold and the meaning blossom for you. And so it's kind of like entering into kind of a interaction for sure, um, in that. And it's a little bit intimidating in a way, just because of how how much material there is for one, and how many different ways people could translate it, and all the different perspectives. Um, but I definitely find in using it that I see resonance in my own life. And in fact, coming up to this meeting, the last reading I did had a lot to do with beginner's mind and wanting to learn, but not being too critical of our ignorance. And that was very helpful because I feel very ignorant in a lot of the different traditions that I would love to know so much more about, Taoism being one of them. But it almost feels like you're going to step on some toes or trample over a tradition that should be held in a lot more esteem than, we just shoot the shit, so to speak, and bring out all our wares. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't want to do that. And yet at the same time, um, I also understand that all of these different traditions, like I said, are just humans' best way to point to the moon. And we can get hung up on a lot of the elements in them and forget that it's pointing to something ineffable that words aren't going to be able to express anyway. So um, I
Can
think
I
it's okay.
can I say, I mean, the more that you talk, the more I sort of thinking, like the more that you're describing the I Ching, it feels to me, and I'm just talking about feeling at this point, it feels to me more like astrology, in as much as astrology is incredibly complex, like like it's
Mhm.
incredibly complex. People can spend a lifetime studying it, but which it sounds like really you can with the I Ching as well to get it in depth. But it is still it's a system that has, I think, pretty strict rules to it. There's some degree of interpretation, but it's pretty strict, and in its own way, I Ching is sort of strict. But you don't have to have, and maybe this is the point, you don't have to have a external spiritual intermediary between you and astrology, and you don't need to have it by the sounds of things with the I Ching necessarily. And so I'm curious because I know that both JC and Ashley, you both use tarot cards and things like that. And from my experience with tarot, I said, apart from that potential theory about egregoric energy, I do believe, because I think I go into an altered state of consciousness when I read, that it's not even really me, it's something else coming through me. And that my role, I often say, is a synthesizing intelligence. It's not actually the one who's doing the reading. So that does require an intermediary. And I do believe, as I say, in grace, I believe in angels, I believe in that sort of thing. So I'm kind of interested from the two other tarot readers. I might throw to you first, JC, and then Ashley. And just like, what do you think happens when you read cards? Do you feel it's you primarily, or do you feel something's talking through you?
Such a good question. Yes. And also, just before I answered, I wanted to say to Ryan, when we were talking, like with tarot, it's quite predictive.
Mm.
And with the I Ching, when you're doing readings, is it predictive or is it more about being in the flow? So feel free to stew on that, Ryan, while I finish answering Helen's question about the tarot, and then I'm going to kick it to Ashley. But it's so interesting because like yourself, when you're reading and you're giving someone information, like when you say it and you're getting recognition of what you're saying, you think, where the hell is this coming from? How can I possibly know this much about somebody I met for 30 seconds that's just coming to my space for a reading, and that information is not you, it's coming from somewhere. I do remember a friend of mine many moons ago said she thought we elevated our consciousness and we were actually reading the Akashic records, so you were getting the information because it's there, and then you're the conduit that can share the information. And I always like the idea of that. But I also find too, sometimes when the information comes through, it's not just the energy that feels different. Like if I'm hearing song lyrics or
Hmm.
seeing words or smells, it's the energy of it is different. It's almost cultural. Do you know what I mean? So you can read for someone and you have energies come in, and I feel like if it was someone's loved one who'd passed over or whatever, if they were overweight and what have you, I would feel that in my lungs. You're carrying that energy for what you're bringing through. So, yeah, I definitely think it is external to us, but you have to be able to connect to it, and it can only show you what we recognize ourselves. If I've never seen a I don't know, some random thing, a dragon,
Mhm.
There is no way I'd be able to give a person a dragon and explain or share with them what the hell that dragon actually is, because I wouldn't know what it was. So it uses all the knowledge and information we have, but I definitely think that it is a culmination of the two, but there's definitely an external energy or source that we read with or from. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Ashley?
Um, First of all, I really admire you guys and your ability to channel and read tarot. And I started my channel as more of a self-development tool and to help myself keep myself accountable for my healing. And so I'm still learning tarot. I will pull like a tarot a day, and normally it's right in line with a message that I need to hear for myself or something that I'm going through. So I do feel like it is something that you can tap into externally, whether it be your spirit guides or somebody else's if you're reading for someone else. And for me personally, I don't read for other people because I'm still learning how to read for myself. But it's I mean, I've had some crazy things happen with tarot. For instance, I had this amazing dream a few nights ago where I don't even remember most of it now, except for the important parts. I was walking on a trail, and the trail turned into this building that you could walk into, and you were like above the ocean, and there were dolphins and tons of whales, just full of whales and humpbacks especially. And the next morning I woke up, I wrote my dream down. It felt so profound, and I pulled myself a card of the day, and the card that came out was, what do they call it? I think the Apprentice of Cups. And it's a weird name in this deck, but it was a humpback whale on
Wow.
it. So it was, it
Synchronicity.
was,
Yeah.
yeah. And then even through that
Exactly.
day, I went to my first patient's house of the day, and I never noticed that their door knocker was a whale tail.
Wow. Wow. Something's
And there
talking
was,
to you.
yeah, and there were other whale things. And even today, we were setting up my desk for this, and we found a little library card from like inside a book, and it says whale song on it. And then I found a little rock that looks like a humpback whale. So I'm just like, there's got to be something that works with us or through us for others or for ourselves. And I find it to be a really good tool. So,
Just wait as you develop, because like the way you described starting to do tarot is exactly what I did too. Even though I grew up with astrologers and we did all these wacky astral travel and stuff like that. Basically, I just thought it was going to be a meditative tool and a self-development tool. It always sounds like it makes sense psychologically. And then I read for people and things started happening and it was predictive. And I have ever since then, which is like 30 years ago or whatever, I have tried to figure out how the hell it works because it freaks me out. And it freaked me
yeah.
out big time then because I thought, do we have any free will if you can do this? And that's a whole other
Yeah.
big question about
I
just
was going to say that's a whole other set of videos, Helen. Do we
yeah.
actually?
But the predictive side of it is interesting when you suddenly see it. So that's a nice sort of segue back to what JC was asking you, Ryan. So I Ching,
So
predictive or not, do you
the
think?
the comparison of the I Ching to astrology, I absolutely love that, and it does feel similar. Like if there is an energy affecting, the planet and all of us, be it the position of the various planets and the state of the moon, or the uh, what is it? The moon phase that it's in. And if there's an eclipse, all of that stuff going on. It's kind of like gives you a snapshot of what's happening at the time. And if you do it to somebody's birthday, you can kind of foresee elements of their character and how their life might go and how they might relate to other people, that kind of thing. And so I feel like that's a really, really, really apt way of describing the I Ching in terms of comparing it to tarot and astrology at the same time. Like, I think that that's kind of what's going on. For my experience with it, it feels very much like it can be talking about something I've just had happen, or something that's happening now, or something that's happening now and just happened and is happening for a period of time. It's almost like what helps me is to sit with the reading and re-listen to it over time, because it takes a while for me to draw that out,
Mm-hmm.
um, sometimes. And so whether you could do, I Ching reading after I Ching reading after I Ching reading. I don't think it's really built for that. I think it's a little bit more you want to sit in with the energy, and I kind of I was thinking about doing personal I Ching readings. However, I feel as though it's almost a snapshot in time, and so
Hmm.
it could be used for anyone coming to it for just that snapshot, kind of like astrology might give you. Um, so it doesn't feel like it's even a worthy goal to go out and do personal I Ching readings with that kind of being my perspective on it.
I think it's reflective too, like whether it be tarot, I Ching, what have you, there is an element of reflection that needs to exist in all of them. Because I mean, I've been doing readings for years, and I can tell you, your practice, Ashley, is fabulous. It's such a great way, because even I started doing that. But I can have things happen to me and experience them.
We're losing you.
3 days
JC, we're losing you at the moment. Can you hear
go,
me?
holy shit, how the fuck?
It's just your holy shit.
JC, we're losing you. Can you hear us?
Like, my God, you know what I mean? Oh, 1 second. Yes, I can. Can you not hear me?
We can, yeah, we can hear you again, and now you're moving again. But we didn't hear all of that since you sort of said to Ashley that was a good
We
practice.
heard shit and fuck.
Yeah, we didn't hear anything else.
Oh, excellent. The two most important things. So
Yeah.
what I said in between the shit and fuck was that all the experience that I've had, I still can take me a couple of days to go, that's what that was, or that's what I'm
Mhm.
supposed to get. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, I don't know if we ever get to a place, or as you said, Helen, that favorite thing I love, that you said your mum said she was always beware of Mr. Right, Mr. Always Right.
Oh,
If
I
we
love
come to
that
that
too.
point, where whatever we're doing spiritually, I think that's when it becomes an issue, because what
Mm.
else are we going to learn? So maybe it's a good thing it still takes me 3 days sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard to read for yourself too,
Oh,
for
I
tarot,
can't.
because
Yeah.
it's so easy to, I mean, astrology is probably a bit the same too. It's so easy to kind of put the best spin on it when maybe you need to put the more um, decisive spin on it, which is one of the things Ryan I like about the I Ching. I Ching does not pull punches at all, at
And
all.
it's
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
objective.
It's
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
another reason I don't like using it that frequently, is because it's a freaking crapshoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look at
You
us in
might get
this. We've
laid
done
out.
readings and we've said, oh, we're going this direction. They'll go, no, you're not.
yeah. Not what you're here for. Exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
bring you back to earth. Bam.
Actually, funny story. I have these gypsy fortune cards, right? And I got given them for my 30th birthday many moons ago. Let's not focus on that. And I've had them so long, the spine's falling off them. They're faded. My cats have chewed the corner. And fortune telling, again, different from tarot. I've always found these cards to be absolutely correct, but it's like spirit sucker punching you, where I kept getting this pregnancy card over and over and over
Oh,
again.
no.
Turns out it was my cat.
All
So,
right.
yes, there's pregnancy in
Thank
the
God.
house. I was like, would you please do not let it be my teenage nephew? But it was the cat. So like, even, which I guess is bringing me to my next point, it's our interpretation,
Mm.
like we read intuitively. So yes, you might pull the death card, but if I'm reading for someone and I really feel that it has nothing to do with death, then that's what's the energy you're going to give. So even with the I Ching, right, like you're saying, it's still open to interpretation. It's not just about the hexagrams or the tarot cards or the runes or the fortune telling cards. It's still what we get, as you said, Helen, wherever that be from, that we're able to interpret the information that comes through.
It's the same with
Mhm.
What I
astrology. I mean, like if you look at your chart for any length of time. And because I grew up with astrologers, I did, whether I wanted to or not sometimes. My chart was gone through. But the thing is that you will learn over time. Like I know that Venus doesn't work that well for me compared to other planets. So Saturn works pretty well for me when a lot of people are scared of Saturn and so forth. And I kind of think that's a bit like you either do or you don't get on with the Greek gods, really. Like it's something like that. So you do have to know what it means to you, I think, over time. And that's so there's a whole layer of learning it as a system. And then there's the layer of how does it actually apply to you. And I mean it's a bit like, I don't know, not that I know anything about this, so I probably shouldn't go into this area at all, but I think it's probably a bit like quantum physics with all that kind of concept that the person who observes the experiment changes the experiment, which might go a little bit, Ryan, to kind of what you're talking about with the I Ching. Like it's kind of, it almost sounded like at one point when we were talking about an exchange of energies. There is you and then there's the mind of Tao, and it's a kind of exchange. That's what it sounded like.
I like to relate it to the as within, so without,
Hmm.
as above, so
Okay.
below, that kind of thing. Uh, it feels a little bit like you're kind of trying to tune the two, together as best as you can.
Hmm.
And if you think about it in terms of kind of just energies that you're getting acquainted with, each of the different trigrams is a member of the family, the father, the mother, eldest brother, eldest daughter, middle brother, middle daughter, youngest son. It's getting to know the family, right? And then how they interact together and what kind of images they make when you have them in combinations, and what happens when you have changing lines, all of that stuff. It's like categorizing and then creating bullet points. And then, you know what I mean? It's kind of like you're building a story
Hmm.
about what's happening with these energies when they come together and join in various ways. And so, building like kind of an inner landscape where you're trying to coordinate with the as within, so without, as above, so below kind of idea. It's like a process that I feel is similar to tuning your vibration to the vibration of the Tao
Hmm.
and its various uh, external ways that it manifests in whatever time frame you're in. And so just basically harmonizing your life with what the sage would do in any given circumstance.
I like the idea of it like telling a story because I think that's kind of the way I read with tarot. I've had that kind of feedback that sometimes I come across more like a storyteller than a tarot reader, and there's probably some truth to that. So again, be interested, JC and Ashley, in your experiences of that. Do you feel like you're seeing a story when you read? And Ashley, I know that you're relatively new to it, but still, in terms of what you do, or do you think it's kind of just not just, but it's an energy, or what do you think? I might throw to you first, Ashley, and then go to JC, just so you're not talking over each other, because I wasn't
Oh,
being very clear.
yeah.
But like JC, what do you? JC, Ashley, what do you feel? On that kind of thing, do you feel like you're telling a story, finding a theme?
Oh,
Going for an
yeah.
emotion? What? What?
I
What does?
have I have a recurring message, and it's change your perception, because
Mhm.
I have a lack mentality, and I have been through a lot of traumatic things in my life, and I've built myself up from homelessness, with as a single mom.
Mhm.
And so I'm in a space where I'm a nurse. I have a family. I have so much that I worked so hard for, and I'm so abundant, and I'm so grateful for all of that, but I still have this lack mentality and this just trauma response to so many things. So that's my theme personally, and it's what I find in a lot of the readings that I listen to as well. Is look at what's in front of you, change your perspective
Mm.
on things. You are abundant. Feel into this. It's safe now. Those kinds of things. So that's like where my theme is personally. Um, I don't know about
That
anybody
makes me
else.
think like hangman. I've got another question I'm going to ask you once
Okay.
once you've spoken, JC. But just so you know, to bookmark it, that just made me think it's like maybe we could all kind of pick a major arcana card that we think is our theme. Because I thought it was really fascinating what you're
Yeah.
saying. Like, and how you, because you're not just talking, Ashley, about the experience of the lack sort of thing, which is very understandable, but you're talking about how you dealt with it. It's
Hmm.
very wise. Change your
Thank
perception. I
you.
mean, that's all we really can ever do. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, bookmark that thought. JC, what
I
about you
will.
in terms of reading? Storytelling, theme, what do you think it is?
Absolutely. I feel for the next one, you should be grabbing a ukulele, Helen, and we should balladeer the hell out of these conversations. But
Yeah.
um, definitely, because I think that's one of the things about the tarot. It doesn't matter which deck you have, the whole thing tells you a story, and
Mm,
sometimes the story resonates, sometimes it doesn't. I absolutely agree. And even like you said, Ashley, I find that a lot of the people that I know who are tarot readers, and I have some friends who are like in their 70s, and I have some younger friends who are in their 30s, and they all have tarot. But I think a lot of the experiences we have, you said, Ashley, when you have significant trauma and you draw on that, I also find you attract that energy to you because you are living
Mhm.
success of this is what can happen when you do this. And I think you draw them into people who come to your personal readings, whether you know it energetically or not. I've found
Mhm.
that in my own experience. And I think it is a really, really good thing. And yes, I do think it tells a story from beginning, middle, end, whether it just be the deck you're talking about or from people, But like any good story, I don't think sometimes you always start at the beginning with the
Yeah.
tarot. I think sometimes it
Yeah.
can be more midway, or maybe you're at the end, or you're coming to it from just the beginning. I don't think it's that linear, but
Mhm.
definitely, definitely, definitely a story.
So, can I go around and like feel free, Ryan, to say if you don't feel that familiar with the major arcana, but like I just be really fascinated. This is like completely out of left field, but like a major arcana card that you feel might represent how you are in your practice. Is it too difficult if you don't know the major arcana? I'm not sure how much you're familiar with the major arcana.
Well, was first going to say the Hierophant
Uh-huh.
because I aspire to that, but I think truly it's the Hangman. And one
Okay,
example,
fair enough.
Oh, I
one
think you're a
example
hierophant.
is that we I have the directions mapped out in my own kind of version of my shamanism that I resonate with. And we used to have our bed with the head at the east. And in the place we moved, we have it at the west. So in my version of the cosmos, I'm upside down now.
Me too. It's hard to sleep.
So for me, it's interesting you said what you aspire to because when I was thinking I'm going to ask this question, I thought about what I'd say myself. Um, and I kind of have an aspirational one in what I try to do with my readings, but then I think there's an actual one, which is how I really do it. But the aspirational one is the sun to bring optimism and to let people see all that they could be and all their gifts and all that kind of thing. But I suspect I'm really a bit more like justice because it's kind of like, well, what are all the perspectives around that? Not so much changing your perspective, but keeping this in balance. And we look at all the different lenses and we try and like be realistic about this business. I think that's sort of where I see it. Ashley, I kind of said the hangman maybe for you around perspective, but is there any other major arcana card that you relate to?
Um, well, I have a tattoo of the hermit because I was thinking about, I am a Virgo sun, and with the hermit, standing on top of a mountain with his little light, that's how I feel. Like I've climbed this mountain and I've got
Mhm.
this light of wisdom. I don't really know if that's what it's
That's
supposed
lovely.
to represent, but it feels like that's my light in
Mm.
the dark,
Yeah.
But right now, with my year ahead spread that I did for myself, the energy surrounding the year is temperance.
Oh,
So
lovely.
I feel that happening. Like I feel my internal world alchemizing.
Mm.
And so that's what I resonate most with, and that's a card that comes out for me often and when I'm watching other people's readings. So
Then you're not a beginner, my dear. Let me just tell you that. Even if you feel that you are, yeah, chronologically in this life, I bet you're not. I bet you have done this a lot. Temperance is very
Yeah,
high
she's
order.
actually one of the most naturally magic people I've ever met. It's
There you
like
go.
she doesn't
See?
need to know all the details. It just is out of her pores.
I
Yeah.
did I did gosh, it's been so long. My son's 16. He was probably 3 when this happened. I was working as a nursing assistant and we all went out for, drinks and karaoke after. I love karaoke. But
The
there
ukulele's coming.
there was this guy sitting in the corner. He was an older gentleman and he had this hat on, and it reminded me of my son's biological father because he used to wear the same hat. And so I don't know if I was eyeing him or what, but he was doing free tarot readings. And I didn't really have any experience with tarot at that time at all in my life. And I walked over and he was like, "Do you want a free tarot reading?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I was like, "Well, can you read minds too?" Because I was, young
Yeah.
and stupid. And he was like, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Okay, what am I thinking?" And he said, "Why are you wearing that hat?" And I was like, "Okay, give me a reading." But
Hey!
he did tell me that, in a past life that I was better at that than he was. And so
Yeah.
I think from there, that's when I just, I lost touch with all of this stuff for a while because I was going through some things. But like picking that back up, he passed away quite a while ago, but he was a mentor to me for a little while. And so I just really want to develop that because if
Mm.
that's true, that would be cool.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
probably is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry for the whole roundabout
No, no,
side
no,
story.
no. It just proves my point, so I'm happy.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Um,
what we love. Okay, so I
yeah,
get to be the contrarian now, Helen,
go
because
for
my
it.
absolute favorite card in the deck, and has been for a very long time, is the Tower.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And it's because I value authenticity so much that when you have the Tower, all that is not solid, all that is not real, it's blasted away. I'm pretty sure that companies I've worked for do think I'm the Tower because many times in my life, I've gone in there at the end where, to be fair, they did make more money than they had in a while, but it's usually when they're about to close or they can no longer continue with the business or what have you. But again, when that happens, as hard as it is for us too, I think towers are some of the best things that ever happened to us. Genuinely not at the time, okay? Granted, I will
Yeah.
give you that. We probably don't go, "Oh, this is so wonderful, all this shit's happening to me."
Yeah, bring it on.
By the way. But yeah, so the Tower. But if we're going to do aspirational ones too, I'm going to throw in, I think it would have to be the Empress.
Hmm.
And I literally bought the t-shirt the other day with the Empress on it.
Hmm.
But for the reason that I think when we come to that, and I think this is a lifetime achievement as a female, obviously we're doing energies, not necessarily genders, but that's you in your absolute, this is me, this is what you get, and that's it. It's just absolute power, however you see that as your
Mhm.
identity. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I kind of see the Queen of Wands like that too. I often say the
Oh yeah.
self-actualized person. Yeah.
If
absolutely.
those are your
I love the Queen of Wands.
if those are your favorite, JC, I think you would really like the I Ching and Taoism because you tower your way to the High Priestess. That's the story of the
Excellent.
I Ching, and the going back to your natural state, your true nature. It's removing those edifices that we've
Mm.
built up that we, think that we are or that we identify with, and just tower after tower after tower all the way to the High Priestess.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's, I think, a very short summation.
Yeah. So just because that was
Even more
fun,
awesome.
because that was
That was
fun,
fun.
I'm going to like ask the opposite question in a way. If that's what we think we kind of most aspire to, and we're most like, what do we think is missing? What do you think? What major arcana card do you think is missing? Um, and going to have to think about what mine is. Having said
The
that, so
other
let's go to
20.
you first, Brian. What major
Missing
arcana card do you think is missing, or would you like to sort of like have more of that you don't think?
in my life or in general?
probably in your life or for you, like what you feel like of the different archetypes you aren't necessarily expressing as much, but you would like to.
I guess the world,
Hmm.
yeah, and maybe the fool after the travel through the tarot and back.
Yeah.
That would be, my true aspiration, clearly. But I think seeing the bigger picture and obviously with one of the focal points of Eastern esotericism being enlightenment, that's and me gravitating towards it, I definitely, you know, uh, feel kind of like on the path, so to speak, and constantly that's in my mind, and throughout mundane activities, I'm trying to blend that element in as much as I can while still maintaining a balance and being able to do, interactions on an ego level, uh, and kind of have in the back behind my perspective that kind of world card feel, kind of like maybe the quantum connection you were talking about, and maybe that is a similar way we can look at how uh, the energy underneath what's going on and how when we're doing divination, what's coming out. But maybe that is, if you could take out the idea of time completely and space, and if it was just completely embodied in this one consciousness, maybe, or whatever is going on, then we're like all talking about this one thing that can express itself in various ways. And in the experiences that we have where we delve into that space and find it, um, maybe that's how we're supposed to live, in like a state of divination, if you see what I'm saying by that. You know what I mean? And yet still be able to keep our 9 to 5s or what have you, do
That'd
basic
be a
shit.
difficult concept.
But yeah, I think that and also in Taoism, that's a high ideal. Is there was a higher place devoted to the sage in the city versus the sage on the mountain,
Mm.
is because of that ability to integrate the two
Yep.
like that. Is that you have to be able to, and sometimes it is more difficult in society with that dust that it talks about, um, than it would be just out in nature by yourself alone on a mountain in seclusion. But I think in our modern era, most people are probably in that position. And I think that's a similar ideal that you might have going through the fool to the world in the tarot.
Mm. Being in the world, uh, I have worked out what my one is, so I'll just sort of jump in. I actually think the one that I think is missing quite often, and that I would probably want not to be missing is temperance, because I think I live so much in my head and I read so much from my head. I've actually had people say to me, "You're not very spiritual for somebody who works in a spiritual job," and there's some truth to that in as much as it has to make sense to me, or like something like, the gears sort of like catch and don't work in my head. So I think that, that thing that connects maybe to the heart and that kind of thing is a little bit harder for me for a whole range of reasons. As I said, Saturn works well for me in my chart. I'm very Saturnian. So yes, I don't envy you, Ashley. I don't mean like that, but I admire you if you're connected to alchemy, because that's something I struggle with. What about you, Ashley? Is there anything like in the major arcana that you think, gee, I'd really like to be more like that?
Oh man. I feel like my intuition could be a little bit stronger, so maybe the high priestess,
Hmm.
and then really the sun. Honestly, I seem so happy-go-lucky, but I am a colorful little shadow dweller. So I feel
I like it. I
like
like it.
I could definitely just use some, like I spend my day bringing that kind of energy to other people. But I don't give it back to myself. And so I feel like that is what's missing is I give and I give and I give. And I try to I'm a hospice nurse, so I work with people who are dying, and that's like I just walk in and I just bring them sunshine. And I could use that myself.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Absolutely.
What about you, JC?
Well, I was just thinking which ones are missing. And I did say before, I think it's going to be the other 20 that I didn't mention in the major arcana. I'm going to go probably all of them.
I think you're a bit more well-rounded than you're giving yourself
Yes,
credit for.
exactly. Like I said, maybe a little bit of everything. But I think from the last couple of years, I would say I probably need to embody less hermit energy to come back down the mountain. Like you said, when you're doing a lot of self-work and things like that, it's very easy to be like, this is all amazing. Look how much I've learned. Look at all these experiences I've had. And then go, yeah, I'm just going to stay here because this is like comfy. Yeah, shadow dweller with my karaoke and my coffee. Just bring it back down to the mountain. But yeah, so I would say probably that. But if I could pick one that I would really, really want to embody more of, what would I do? You know what? I'd probably say the death card. Because that whole transformational process that we have when we experience it, I mean, absolute transformation, that kind of really hardcore, that yeah, to be more willing to embrace instead of fighting. As I said to you and Ryan once before with my guides, when they say stuff to me, I'm like kicking and fucking screaming, like they'll say and I'm like, but I'll do it kicking and screaming, like why do I have to do it? Who said? What makes you the boss? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so probably the more being more willing to be embracing of transformation, because I feel like we know true transformation is hard. It is really, really hard. And I would never dismiss anybody that chose not to do that because let's face it, it's hard.
It is hard.
But at the end of the day, I know it's like the kind of hindsight thing, but when you have all those milestones that you achieve and you move forward and you see the difference in your life, then you go, yeah, it was worth it.
It was worth it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we could have a bit of fun. I could grab a tarot deck and I could shuffle and I could deal out like a card for each of us, like a major arcana, see what spirit reckons we're most like and least
Ooh,
like.
yeah,
Would
let's
that be
see
fun?
That sounds fun.
And
Let's
just so
do
this,
it.
for anybody watching doesn't feel that this is incredibly self-indulgent, all of this, it would be lovely if in the comments you let us know what card do you feel most like in the way that you do your spiritual practice and what one would you like to have more of? That would be a really nice conversation starter for the comments, so we'll see what we get. But I just thought it could be fun. So I've just grabbed a tarot deck. So I'll start with you, Ryan, and I'll go around the thing. So I'm just going to
I
shuffle.
wanted to show you guys really quick too. When she was talking, it made me think of this the
Oh yes,
Oh,
yeah,
I
the
love
Toth
top,
it.
deck.
the
That's
top
the
deck.
Aleister
That
Crowley deck,
card is
isn't
just
it?
Yeah, yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
Oh,
What one is
I
that?
when one of my shamanic journeys, it felt like that, and there was a
Ooh,
scorpion as well. So when I
wow.
saw this card and it was going down into the bottom of like this ocean area with like swirling kind of creatures and stuff, and an eagle came and brought me out, but like that death experience, I think Aleister Crowley was very much like thought that was a very
oh,
important
yeah.
alchemical step.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway,
It is a very important one, and it's choice as well. So, okay, so I'm just shuffling everybody, and just going to shuffle, and then I'm going to ask firstly from Spirit, what major arcana card is Ryan most like, and I'll deal out till I get one, and then I'll shuffle again and ask what one is he least like, and then I'm just going to go around the thing. I just think it could be
that
fun.
This
Um,
sounds
does
fun.
sound fun.
Personal
okay,
sharing.
yeah. So
Also,
okay, so for Ryan.
oh, while Helen's shuffling, I was just going to say, Ryan, with that deck, I love that Thoth deck from Aleister Crowley. But the thing about the transformation as well, because your transformation, and when you're healed, then you are in a place to help others be inspired to transform and heal. Because if you're not in that space, I think it can be really damaging to people.
Okay, so
Mhm.
I've got the one most like. Okay, this is just, and we might discuss each as we go through. So, Spirit reckons you're most like the moon.
Oh, whoa. You know what's
Ooh,
weird
I
about
love
that?
that card.
I'm burning incense that is the moon right now, or was. It burnt out.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
And I'm a Cancer, so that's,
That makes sense.
sun.
Okay. And let's shuffle for the least. What does Spirit think you're least like at this point? Just deal out till I get a major arcana. Oh, okay. The High Priestess. Now that's interesting
That's interesting.
Yeah.
because the moon and the High Priestess to me are very closely aligned. Um,
Yep.
so so that's Oh, you know what I think it is, and then I'll just say what is the moon is the natural. The moon is the natural psychic, and the person who connects in with it's naturally. The high priestess is one who has a lot of learning, and I think that you've said yourself, you've got the beginner's mindset. You're learning about the teaching. I think it's probably saying that. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Hmm. Well, I guess the finger pointing to the moon idea is definitely something that is a Eastern concept that I love. And it also talks about the reflection of the moon in all of the different pools of water.
Hmm.
And so maybe, that kind of an idea. The high priestess is almost that like wordless state, or that it's almost like in my mind almost the energy behind the moon, you know?
That's why it
So
confused me a bit. Mm.
so that being said, maybe the challenge for me would be to get past the surface and get to what's the energy behind it, and not get hung up on like surface details as much, or ego, uh what do they call it, projections, and find out the energy behind things, and possibly be in more wordlessness.
Yeah, and look, but
Yeah.
what's interesting is that the high priestess is also very secretive, and what you are doing is bringing this out to people. So maybe, and that's not to
Mm.
say it's bad to be not like the high priestess on that level, because what you're trying to do is not high priestess like, but as I say, the moon is the natural. So actually, do you want me to do you?
Okay.
Actually, the most like, wait till I get. I'm just dealing out till I get one. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Judgment.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll get the least and then we'll have a talk about it. So judgment, that's a very interesting one. I told you you've got stuff in your past lives. Anyway, let's see what else. Oh, now that's very interesting. The one you least like is the moon. So so that would suggest to me, and just on my reading, just off the top of my head, that you do bring in a lot of knowledge from past lives, Ashley, and a lot of understanding about. Oh, it's really interesting that you're a hospice nurse, actually. That that kind of connection to the life and death cycle, very scorpionic in a way. And the moon is probably, in that case, needing to detach from the emotional stuff because of the fact that you do that kind of work. You've got to kind of, does that make sense? And what does it say
Yeah,
to you?
I I feel right in line with what you're saying. Yeah, I do have to detach. I think I've finally learned how to still be present and still also keep myself separate and know that this person is going through this thing, but it's not my thing. I'm just a guide. I'm here to help. And so yeah, I feel like it's been a lot of learning for me. There are situations that I still really struggle with, thinking about, for sure. So it's a
Mhm.
work in progress.
Yeah, you bring in a lot of heft, as I say, from past lives. Okay, JC, you want your go?
Excellent.
Okay.
You know what would be really trippy if we all end up with the moon
Oh, that
on
will be
some
really
way, shape,
trippy.
or form? How cool would that
That would be
be?
super cool.
That will be. Okay, so the alert for the most like. Oh, you're most like the hermit.
See?
Oh, wow.
Hermit mode. I told you, come down and fix it.
And then least like at this point. Oh, okay. Strength.
Ooh.
Hmm. So what does that say to you, JC?
It says to me exactly what we were just talking about. This hermit mode thing, like I said, as challenging as an experience it was, and absolutely amazing, actually being willing to and having the courage to share that information, that experience, to use it as a an engine, not a brake, if you will.
Mm.
Like when you have fear or what have you, it is, you have the opposite. You can either use it as an engine or you can use it as a brake. So I think it's saying you need to use this in a way that is positive
Yep.
and get off the fucking mountain. Like now.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
as a person who's very much in the world, I think that's a good idea. Come down from the mountain and we'll do coffee. Okay, so I'll do it for myself, just see what I get.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, this
so
will be cool.
oh right, okay. I'm the most like the magician, apparently. That's
Excellent.
okay, and then least like that's really interesting because I said I yearn to be like the like temperance, and temperance is the mature magician, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I think spirit might agree with me. You need to grow up a bit, Helen. Get out of your head.
Or it's
Okay.
saying you're in the prime of your youth and you'll never be this young again. So
Well,
enjoy the
that's true, but
process.
that's a bit sad given my actual age. But anyway,
I don't think so.
okay, and
I think
then
it's fabulous.
least like, let's see. Um, least, oh, that's it. Oh, this is very true. Least like the chariot. Like, I hate travel. I hate moving. I like to
I hate
stay in the one
movement in
place.
general.
Like, that's very, very practical and very true. But it's all about balance. I see myself as justice, right, which is kind of like the head does all the balancing. Temperance actually brings the heart in, and chariot gets it all balanced. So I think spirit agrees with me that I need to get into balance, but also maybe I need to get out more. That's what it's.
Let's not get too hasty. Jeez.
That's kind of
Yeah.
funny. So, okay, well, that was it also made me think of another thing. I'm sorry, this is
What?
going in a particular direction, but it's just what's occurring. I read for some very interesting people who shall remain nameless, but they may well see theirs, and they'll recognize if they do. And one of them comes up with these fascinating sort of kind of pop culture references and so forth to look at, and they're really, really deep and really interesting. And one that the person brought up was in the latest series of Wednesday. Apparently, there's like a concept of you are either a raven or a dove, and so a dove has its spiritual energy from the light primarily, and comes from the light and all that kind of. And then the raven comes not necessarily from darkness in a bad way, but from kind of like having dealt with a lot of stuff and having that kind of more, I guess, Saturnian way of looking at things or whatever. So I just thought it was really interesting because they wanted me to read around that, and it became a really interesting reading. So if you had to choose raven or dove, what would you choose? I'll go to you again, Ryan, first.
Raven.
Hmm.
And in Taoism, there is a similar kind of concept,
Uh-huh.
similar
Yeah.
in that people are either more yin or more yang.
Ah, yeah.
And so it breaks things down in that. And there's also the idea that if you're too yin, there are definitely times in your life where you're going to need to be more yang and vice versa. Um, but yeah, I love all things dark, not all things, but I definitely gravitate towards that. And in Taoism, it talks about the mysterious past and the darkness and to nurture darkness. And it's talking about kind of like the primeval, original essence that we come out of and in through meditative practices and silence and things like that you delve into that space and that's a space that I love going into kind of like in a shamanistic way.
Hmm. Ashley.
Oh, definitely a raven.
Hmm.
What was that thing in your reading was it yesterday that was the darkness when the darkness sees itself?
Oh yeah,
Ryan?
yeah,
How did it go?
it said this is darkness realizing its darkness.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that, but it just stirs up something in there. But definitely a raven. We actually had an experience with the raven. We went on like a night. We went overnight in this yurt. I think it was a yurt, but it was out on the peninsula, and there's a lot of woods out there, so there's a lot of ravens, and we'd seen them flying before when we've taken trips out there, but there was one yelling at us, I think, to get out of its woods. It was very cool, but yeah, ravens, there's just something about them. I love
Mm.
their mysterious feeling when you look at them, especially. Yeah.
JC?
Can I be a Doven and walk
Yeah, if you
between the
want.
two? Can I be like
All the
like
things.
the idea of
Yeah,
I
no
love
reason
the
why
idea of
not.
duality. And like you said, we want to, because there's so much stuff now, I'm sure you guys have seen about shadow work and the darkness and how important, which we all know, because, like, when you know yourself and you accept yourself, well, that's it. You've got that completion. But I love the idea of being someone who works with the light, but you can bring that into the darkness as well as taking the darkness and bringing it into the light. So we
Mm.
do have that duality. So I'm going to be a Doven,
Okay, okay.
half dove, half raven, or a Radov, whatever works. Maybe we could come up with a better concept. But yeah, what about you, Helen?
I would probably go Raven. I think that I have a somewhat, not necessarily, I mean, not, yeah, it depends what you say dark is, but a kind of a yeah, a kind of a, I don't even know what to call it because it's not really shadow and it's not really dark in the way we think of it, but a kind of it is what it is. A kind of almost stoic way of looking at life, actually. Maybe that's the best way to describe it, which I think is probably more raven than dove. And it's more magician than temperance and all that kind of thing, I guess. So I would probably go for that. But the interesting thing too about the raven, for me, is that I had a dream years and years and years ago where there was this very old woman who I think was like a reader or whatever, and I was sort of sitting in a room with her and a friend, and it was sort of at night, and we were just drinking a cup of tea, and she said to me, "Are you a raven?" And I said, "I don't know. Does it matter?" And she went, "It might." And after that, I looked it up. I
Maybe.
looked up raven as a symbol, and one of the things that it is, just as an interesting aside, is in the Mithraean religion, which many people think is a kind of a precursor to the Christianity in terms of a very similar story. The first level initiate of the Mithraean mysteries was called a raven. And I thought, oh, that's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's it's a psychopomp, isn't it, really, the raven? So, but yeah, I would think raven
A
ultimately.
damn spirit talking to you through dreams and like, yeah, it might be important. You're like, well, why
Yeah,
are
it
you
might
showing
be.
me Raven for? Like, is it important or not? Feel it.
Yeah, yes, yes, just tell it. Is it? And if so, why? But dreams aren't like that.
Exactly.
So maybe just to kind of wrap up, because I'm kind of conscious we're probably getting to the time where like the memory on my computer might become a bit of an issue. Um, Almost circling right back to the beginning. I just want to go round the room again, and just ask: do you feel that you have one or more spirit guides? Like,
Mm.
whether you have a personal relationship? So, Ryan, do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I would say that where are you? I connected with this
Where are you, spirit
Where
Yeah,
are
guide?
you,
you're
spirit
spirit
guide?
guide. Yeah, where are you?
this
Hello.
panther fetish. I picked it up on eBay, and Native American man carved it,
Mhm.
and I connected with this and did a kind of like listen to with my headphones some shamanic drumming, and it was like with hemisync even, so it had the kind of bounce back forth whatever vibe in your headphones. And I that's where I told you about the death card and how I had a very similar experience that death card
Mm.
looks like.
Mm.
That's when I had that experience. And so definitely Panther. And then the other would be Polar Bear. And then most likely, um, what is the thing that I'm coming into? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Never mind. Owl. what Ashley was talking about having all these whale things happen to her. I had a bunch of synchronicities happen to me regarding owls for quite some time, culminating in finding at one of my customers' houses that I was there to fix a plumbing issue for. In their backyard, there was just an owl on the ground sitting in their backyard. And it turns out it must have eaten a rat or something that was poisoned because it was dying.
Mhm.
It wouldn't fly off or anything, but I was able to pet it and stuff. And that was just, I've never seen or been able to touch a wild owl before. It was just insane. So yeah, mainly I would say those three. And I guess I'm kind of like learning into lion energy and probably kind of like this dark water serpent thing that, you know, I can't really put my finger on, but is like in the depths. So maybe those kind of
Okay.
things. And then hawk or eagle, but probably more hawk.
So for you, it's interesting. They're all sort of animals or whatever. So that's interesting. What about you, Ashley?
Um, I know I've got spirit animals as guides, and then I know that I have a team of very large guides, as that's what they've been described as an energy reader, but it's very interesting that she had read that because I had surgery on my knee when Ryan and I got married. I had hurt my knee. And I was actually pregnant at the time, but it wasn't showing up on the pregnancy test yet. And so I went in for my surgery. And this is the second time I've experienced something while being put under, which kind of makes me want to have surgery again, which is really weird, I know.
Okay.
But
Way to connect, but I
super fucking weird.
commend you for your
But
enthusiasm, Ashley.
so I remember before they woke me up, I was standing around my body holding hands with these giant beings. And so I don't know if we were protecting me or protecting our unborn child, or if it was just something I was supposed to see, but it was very interesting. And then for my spirit animals, I think I first originally started out with a tiger, a white tiger, and it's very cool because I've had an experience with, each of my spirit animals, whether it be in 3D or just in the dream world. I had gone to Oregon on a road trip, and there was this big cat rescue, and of course I love cats, so I had to go in, and I thought that I was going to go see some lions because it said lions this way, and I didn't see anything in these big cages. And then all of a sudden I heard a hiss, like a loud fucking hiss. I've never heard a cat hiss like that before.
Yeah.
And I see this white tiger get up, and he's just like going to hide while hissing at me. And I spent like an hour just inching closer and closer to the fence, and he came right out, and we were just looking at each other through a
Wow.
chain link fence. So it was cool. And then dragonflies are a big one for me. I see them everywhere. And then eagles sort of took the place of dragonflies for a while. I would see like 10 plus eagles a day,
Oh,
flying around, and we've had plenty of experiences. We put one on YouTube with tons of eagle experiences on my shorts on YouTube because it was just like, there's no way that this isn't magical. And then now it's this whale. So I'm excited to explore that. I'm not
yeah.
exactly sure what that means, but I'm excited.
Wait and see. Yeah.
Yeah.
JC, what about you?
Firstly, it probably means you're going to have a whale of a time getting all through this, Ashley, and all the new experiences that you're coming to have.
Love it.
Thank you.
And also, fun cat story after this, but I definitely always loved cats too. But I have I've had several guides throughout my life, but the ones that are around me now, I have three main ones. And I have one who came to me in meditation, and he said to me, I'm a guide, but I'm not specifically your guide. So is a guide, like, and obviously they can come in and out depending on your energy or what have you. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So, and that's who I work with the most. But again, another whole set of videos after I had that spiritual awakening that we were talking about, Helen, previously. That changed everything for me, and became very much more about duality. And I think my guides are representative of that now
Mhm.
too. So yes.
Cool.
And you, Helen?
So only two that I'm kind of really aware of. Actually, maybe three. Um, One since I was in my teens, which is a kind of primordial entity that came in very clearly and has been with me ever since. Um, and then there's, I think, two archangels. Archangel Gabriel came in probably about 20 years ago or something. And then more recently, Archangel Raziel. I actually wear a sigil ring with Raziel's sigil, which is really interesting because it connects to Hokmah, which connects to a major spiritual experience that I had. But also, I have a friend who's a high angelic magician, and she said that Raziel sent her to my channel. So I think, like we connect on that level, which is really lovely. But yeah, it's more like that for me. I mean, I have done shamanic journeying, and I had a golden deer or a golden stag really, and a bit like you, Ryan, a very huge black female serpent from the water came up. But in terms of guidance and what I do, it's mainly the primordial entity and then feeling the archangel stuff. So yeah, it's just
That's
interesting what different people feel their guides are as
Mm.
well.
Because you have your people ones and we have our spirit guides as well. Like I said, my spirit guides I always see in meditation. So I always
Mhm.
see crocodiles.
Yeah, wow.
I think a serpent is a common one as well. So I've seen them, not necessarily a black shadowy one, but I've seen it in different forms as a snake and what have you. But yeah, most of the animal guides that I see, I see them in my meditation and things. But when I'm working with clients or even with myself, it's my guide, like yourself, Helen, must be something that happens when we're in our 20s. When I first met her, which I call Brie, which is not her name, it's too hard to pronounce, and she's like awesome. She's like a teacher, the polar opposite of me, really strict. So when I get something, it's like, and then I've got my other guide who's like such a sassy pants where he's like, yeah, fuck that, agitate, blah, blah, blah. So, and the energy of the two of them together is like a parent telling a child, sit down, shut up, this is important. So it's quite interesting. And luckily, there's no fighting when you're reading for people, is all I could say, because that would just be awkward. But yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So it'd be really good again in the comments. Let us know, like what sort of spirit guides you have and all that kind of thing. Get the conversation going on that kind of level because we kind of went off on a tangent on that, but it does kind of come full circle because it comes back to the experience all what we do individually, but it's also what potentially externally guides us as well. So we kind of came back full circle. So probably we should probably wrap up now. I'm only, as I say, conscious of how much memory is on my PC, and I do want the video to be able to, like last and go up and be seen. So maybe any last sort of thoughts, just go quickly around the room, as I call it, the Zoom room. So Ryan, anything you'd like to say in closing for today?
This was a lot less stressful than I expected. I
That's
expected to be in the position of teaching everyone about Taoism, and that's not my place. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this. Thank you guys.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Ashley?
Yeah, thank you for having me be a part of this. This was a lot of fun. I
Oh,
really
you're very
enjoyed
welcome.
getting to know you guys more. So,
Yeah, lovely getting to know you, JC.
Agreed. Snaps to all of us. This was so much fun. And all the interesting things that we get to learn and know about each other and share, which is amazing. I love it. It's so much fun.
Definitely.
Cool. Yeah, and I did all of that. It was a lot of fun. I do hope that people didn't think it went off on a tangent that was all just about us, but I would like everybody who's watching this to be thinking about how that applies to them as well, because it's all about self-awareness and spiritual development and exploration and all of those good things. So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do next time we all get together and who else might be in the room, but hopefully this is a growing concern. So do let us know if you're interested in being involved. But beyond that, I thank you for your time. If you've made it this far, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see everybody later.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Great to
Bye.
see you. Ciao,
Bye.
people.